Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. First up, we're going to move through a couple of brief economic updates and then move to the main part of today's video, which will be focused on the increasing Taiwan Strait tensions. This week we learned that China's capital outflows worsened in April. Local firms purchased the largest amount of foreign exchange from banks since 2016 in April, while exporters held back dollar conversion and residents snapped up foreign currencies for overseas travel. US-based Bloomberg explains that these factors indicate a cautious view on the yuan, as China's relatively low interest rates versus the US favors the dollar. Quote, and while the People's Bank of China has stepped in to keep the yuan in a tight range, uncertainties on the timing and the extent of Fed rate cuts this year are making its job harder. End quote. Chinese banks sold a net $36.7 billion of foreign exchange to their clients last month, the most since December 2016. Bloomberg analyst Jared DePipo wrote in a note last week that the collapse in China's foreign direct investment inflows may be more reflective of comparatively higher interest rates in the US than of foreign firms losing interest in China. But this point is still very much up for debate. Meanwhile, both China's national fiscal revenue and its land sales revenue continued to decline in April. According to data released by the Ministry of Finance on Monday, the national fiscal revenue fell by 3.7% year-on-year in April, 1.3 percentage points larger than the fall in March. Tax revenue fell 4.9% year-on-year, narrowing by 2.8 percentage points. Among the main tax categories, domestic value-added tax and individual income tax revenue declined by 9.6% and 18.8% year-on-year respectively. Revenue from the sale of land use rights, which accounts for nearly 80% of the revenue of government-managed funds, fell 10.4% in April, 3.8 percentage points more than in the first 3 months. Chinese financial media outlet Caixin reports that meanwhile government expenditure accelerated in April. Quote, the national general public budget expenditure shifted from a 2.9% decline in March to a 6.1% increase in April. This may be related to the additional issuance of national debt projects. End quote. Now we move from the economy to the main story for today, Taiwan tensions. Yesterday we covered Taiwan's William Lai coming to power as the new president and Beijing's reaction to his speech on Monday. Since then, statements coming from PRC officials and state media have become even more fiery. China's top diplomat Wang Yi, for example, expressed yesterday, quote, Taiwan independent separatist activities are the greatest disruptive factor to peace in the Taiwan Strait. The treacherous acts of Lai Ching-te and his ilk who betray the nation and their ancestors are despicable. However, no matter how they toss about, they cannot stop China from ultimately achieving complete reunification, and Taiwan will inevitably return to the embrace of the motherland. All Taiwan independent separatists will be nailed to the pillar of historical shame. End quote. Zhu Fenglian, a spokesperson for the Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council in Beijing, gave a long, detailed critique of Lai's speech, listing all the phrases which, from Beijing's perspective, are problematic, and ultimately concluding that Lai's speech was, quote, filled with hostility and provocation, lies and deception. End quote. Sabran Global Times, in a special editorial, wrote yesterday, quote, it is clear to all discerning eyes that the so-called democracy is nothing but inferior makeup smeared on the face of Taiwan independence, unable to conceal its true face of seeking independence by relying on foreign support and by force. End quote. Whatever Lai had said in his speech on Monday, however, it's likely that Beijing still would not have been happy. The Cross-Straits Voice channel of the party's official China media group even admitted in a piece yesterday that there was nothing Lai could have said to alleviate China's concerns about the DPP, which has now won its 3rd consecutive 4-year presidential term. Assistant Professor Ma Chunwei, a political scientist from Taiwan's Tamkang University, observed yesterday, quote, he will always be seen as less moderate than Tsai Ing-wen, but he basically stuck to his promise to continue her policies. Honestly, Beijing will not be happy no matter what he says, which he is aware of. What matters here is that he has not made the overall situation much worse. End quote. Yesterday, Beijing hit out against US Secretary of State Antony Blinken for congratulating Taiwan's new leader. Chinese embassies in several countries, including the UK, Japan and South Korea, have also lodged solemn representations with those nations, opposing the attendance of politicians at William Lai's inauguration ceremony on Monday.
If you're enjoying today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit the like button. Liking, sharing and subscribing all helps for the channel. And for anyone who can go that extra mile and help me keep China Update financially sustainable, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. This is a lot of work, but all your support are all incredible sources of motivation. So thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support.
Interestingly, Zheng Yongnian, director of the Advanced Institute of Global and Contemporary Chinese Studies at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, Shenzhen, published a piece in Chinese this week which, while using politically correct language, appears to be advocating that Beijing not overreact to Lai's presidency. Here are some of his comments to the elite Chinese audience. Quote, "Objectively speaking, time is still on our side. Political forces on the island are highly divided and fragmented, and the DPP is not the only political force. Receiving over 40% of the votes does not mean that Lai Ching-te can dominate everything. For the younger generation, Gen Z, in Taiwan, democracy is increasingly becoming an illusionary slogan. What they have seen since birth is a strong China, and the development on the island cannot satisfy their personal development needs. Most Taiwanese people do not want Taiwan to become a second Ukraine, nor do they believe that the United States will actually intervene militarily in the Taiwan Strait conflict. Although they do not want to immediately pursue unification, they also do not want independence. Instead, they hope to maintain the status quo, preserve peace, and avoid conflict. This attitude deserves our understanding and respect. We should promote cross-strait people-to-people exchanges with a more open attitude, creating favorable social conditions for eventual unification. We also need to learn to employ more flexible strategies, firmly defending national sovereignty while winning the hearts of the Taiwanese people with a sweeter carrot approach. We should attach great importance to working with the younger generation in Taiwan, accelerating people-to-people and local exchanges, and winning their trust and support through pragmatic actions." End quote. However, other Chinese commentators in the mainland have warned that, contrary to Zhang's comments here, young Taiwanese are increasingly pulling away from the mainland. Meanwhile, this week, several outlets reported that Dutch ASML Holdings and Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co. have told US officials that they have ways to disable their sophisticated chip-making machines in Taiwan remotely in the event of a PRC invasion. Taiwan is responsible for producing the vast majority of the world's most advanced semiconductors. US-based Bloomberg writes that ASML assured officials about its ability to remotely disable the machines when the Dutch government met with the company on the threat. The Netherlands has run simulations on a possible invasion in order to better assess the risks. The remote shutoff applies to Netherlands-based ASML's line of extreme ultraviolet machines, for which TSMC is its single biggest client. These EUVs are about the size of a city bus and sell for more than 200 million euros, $217 million apiece. And finally, while we're on this theme, yesterday US Representative Mike Gallagher, the former chairman of the Select Committee on the Strategic Cooperation between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, was sanctioned by Beijing. He now cannot enter the PRC, and his assets that he has in China will be frozen, though I would guess that he does not have any assets in China. In a statement made through the US Hudson Institute, the former US lawmaker expressed on the news, quote, "The irony of this is that for over a year the CCP and its American apologists have criticized me for traveling to Taiwan instead of to China. Now I'm not allowed to travel to China. I shall instead look forward to returning to Taiwan in the near future to discuss how we can enhance peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait." End quote. In a more biting statement sent to popular Washington-based newsletter Cynicism, Gallagher expressed, quote, "I'd like to thank China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs for this incredible recognition. When I started the journey of public service, and even when I became chairman of the Select Committee, I never dreamed of such an accomplishment. To be sanctioned by a genocidal communist regime is truly the honor of a lifetime. The only request is that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs send a formal sanction certificate so that I may laminate it and put it on my refrigerator for motivation." End quote. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a great Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.